This is Mod Hotep, producer, songwriter out of Fresno, California. As we say, West Coast, West Side, Fresno. Um, we lost a legend since the last time we had this, Prince,
Oh,
and
yeah.
a few others. 2016 seems to be the year of death as far as music goes, as we keep losing people. Um, we do a lot of talk about how to mix, how to produce, how to um, work with singers to bring the emotion out. So, well, there's only so far you can go if we're talking. A lot of stuff needs to be done. A lot of the learning comes from doing. So, I'm calling on my industry friends that I have on these Google Hangouts and other things, and I'm asking them to, we've already started the process, it's already going to happen. We're asking them to come and teach, but not teach by sitting on a panel and discussing. Teach by joining what we do. So take Brad Chapman as an industry professional. Instead of him coming in and speaking on a soapbox, I would like for him to come in when we do this event. There's going to be several. One in LA and then at Stillman Studios, and then one in Nashville. We haven't decided what studio that's going to be in. But basically say the one at Stillman Studios. It'll be June 9th and 10th. We'll go in, we'll songwrite, we'll create from scratch. People won't even know each other. So say if Robert here was a part of the one of the teams, he would come in, he wouldn't know the singers, like say Keisha Burns, if she joins us. He will meet her for the first time. We will pick teams and start songwriting, recording the songs, mixing the songs, and even we may post the songs up into Pensado students so that they can mix, and people in the group can, once they hear what's going on, we have a bunch of talented people in our groups. They may decide to play a bass line or something and send it back. Because we'll put it in the group via Dropbox, and then they can drop it right back to us and add it into the song. Also, there'll be things like songwriting to where if, let's say, Francisco here, if he's at home, he's actually part of the team that's discussing how we're setting this up. But if he was at home, he could be online in the Google Hangout while we're songwriting. He can contribute to the brainstorming and whatever. So anyway, this event is going down. The friends are going to come through, as their schedule fits within the 2 days, come in and join. So let's say Eric Riker walks in and we're in the middle of recording vocals, which happens to be one of the things that he's like just slays at, is working with artists and getting the vocals down and recording whatever. But he would come in and join. So whoever's in there, whoever comes together to learn and do this thing, when Eric comes in, an industry professional, he comes in and starts working with us to where when you leave with experience. And part of the way you bond and get good at something is through the battle. I'm ex-military, so we say in war, like there's a lot of people who would never have been friends, would never have strong bonds. They have crazy bonds because of what they went through in the battle. And so now it's time for us to start doing stuff where we get in there, have that battle, and gain real-world experience with industry professionals, teaching by doing. So that's the idea. Brad Chapman, are you in?
Yeah. Did you
As
lose
in,
me?
are you in on doing this? Because we talked before
Oh,
about
yeah.
you. Yes.
Yeah, we talked on the phone, you and I, and now it's public. Yes.
I think it was the last hangout or the one before this. I was asking Brad what he would, want to do as far as seminars, and he and others have stressed we're tired of just sitting there at every seminar because we learn by sitting there, but we've got to do something where we start doing action. And so if I say I can do blah blah blah, when we get in the same room together, we find out what's really cracking. We find out, if I say this technique works and you try it at home and you don't it doesn't work for you, well then it's time for me to get off the pot or take that dump, as we say. But so that's what's going down June 9th and 10th, and then all of us are going to, we're going to all meet up at Steelman Studios, put in the work, and then I've been talking to Herb Trowett. Dave Pensado, Herb, and Vintage King have an event that, hey, Sam, Sam's on the team also. Dave Pensado and Herb, Vintage King, they have this thing called Gear Expo. The last one they did was 2013. If you get on YouTube and look up a Pensadian's Day at Gear Fest or Gear Expo, you'll see I'm in a yellow Edison High School shirt going around talking to a whole bunch of industry people and Pensado students. And so you'll get an idea of what that is. Well, that event is the 11th. We're going to all go to that event on the 11th as a posse. Herb said he's going to give us a lot of love. He asked us to wear T-shirts, so we're getting some T-shirts printed up so that they can all identify who we are when we come. And then Gear Expo is going to Nashville. And so we're planning another one of these events for their Nashville event. So Herb and Dave will be in Nashville. I think it's August. Does anybody remember when that was going to be? Nope.
Nope.
They have one coming in the fall in Nashville, and I have a feeling I'm going to be flying out there. But the bottom line is we're going to set one of these up, and then we'll all go to that one also. So that's what's going down. Sam and Francisco. Okay, is it Francisco or Francesco? Because I keep saying both.
It's Francisco.
Francisco. Anything I'm leaving out? Anything you guys want to add to this?
No, just it's. I think you pretty much nailed hit the nail on the head on it all. It's really about a hands-on experience, and Brad's and mine and whoever else is on the team and going to be at the actual event on the 9th and the 10th, and really picking our brains and pushing. As much as we're pushing you, they're also pushing us, because it's not always that we have people at different levels kind of working with us. So it also kind of puts me as a engineer and as a producer kind of on my toes to figure out what I could be missing or what I should be looking out for. So yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Anything, Sam? Oh, Sam, you're muted. I don't hear you. Nope, we see you, Sam, but we don't have any audio from you. And for a sec, hey, Robert. Okay,
yes,
now, Rob, this thing, you said it's a 10-hour drive for you to go to Nashville.
Yeah, that's not, man, I can do that with my eyes closed.
Okay, we do this event in Nashville. Would you want to be one of the singers? What would you want to do?
Absolutely. Positively. Singer, songwriter, arranger. I'd love to take part in all of that.
Okay. All right. So that's what's, this is happening. This is a new thing for us. And then, Brad, what you and I talked about was, like, we have to come up with something creative where everybody benefits. And one of the things we talk about is having a producer in the studio being the audience for an artist. So if a singer's singing, we have the singer not worry about. There's a lot of stuff we eliminate that the singer would be thinking about, and we leave that to the producer to do. So if while the singer's singing, the producer is the audience, and we're gonna do. That's the one training session that I absolutely want to do. Is have Brad will line us all up, and an artist will perform, and they have to not be worried about how they're looking or whatever. They simply do the performance, and then the producer responds and tells him as an audience member what they got out of it. And that's something that I've noticed that a lot of when we're in the studio, we could really focus on that a lot more. John, welcome. and I hope his audio's working.
Huh.
That's number 2 audio. There you go. I heard some audio.
Yeah, I guess the microphone is not working on these headsets. I can't find my other ones. My daughter borrowed them and lost them. How y'all doing?
We're doing great.
Doing pretty good, bro.
Cool. It's raining.
John,
Yeah.
John's on our team also that's assembling this. Okay, John, you're a session musician, right?
Yes.
A session guitar.
That's one of the things I do.
Okay, what else do you do?
Well, I write songs and I compose music for films and documentaries, and I'd really like to be producing artists, and singers.
You know Jim Seifert?
That's a familiar name. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's done a lot of that kind of work, the movies, soundtracks and stuff, and also playing with Streisand, things like that.
What does he play?
He's a keyboard guy, synth guy. I mean, he's up on all that stuff. He's a brilliant.
The name is familiar, but I don't know him. But
he's producing one of my clients right. Well, I'm pre-producing one of his clients right now.
Oh, that's cool.
And one of the greatest things about him is he comes to every session. It's amazing.
What kind of stuff is it?
It's kind of pop with a little jazz feel to it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think this could be a good project. We can't say who the artist is because that's just the industry, but
yeah, they never want to talk about it until after it's when they should be talking about it, probably.
Yeah, really.
I did a session for Brian Wilson back, I guess it was mid-'80s.
Yeah, I remember he did a record then. Yeah.
That was just when he was breaking. It was just before he broke away from Landry, and Landry had us all sign these NDAs, which said, and they were telling us, don't talk about this to anyone, don't say anything to anyone. It's totally hush hush. And the guy who called me for the session, read me the riot act and said, don't say anything about this. We get there, we do the session, and after we finish, in walks a photographer from, I think it was Hollywood Reporter, or there's another, it was a big one, and they're like taking pictures, and I'm like, okay, they don't want anybody to know, but they're doing press release photos. So I always thought that was funny.
Yeah, well, we're all crazy, you know that. We wouldn't be here if we weren't.
Yeah, but it was kind of funny because it was well, it wasn't funny. It was amazing because Brian, you don't realize how brilliant he is until you work with him, because he was like telling me a part to play, and he said, "Do you want me to write it out for you?" And I said, "Oh, that'd be great." And so he came over and he's singing, and as he's singing, he's writing the notes one at a time, and I'm reading it, and I realize as I'm playing it, he's singing the exact notes, and he hasn't been at the piano, so it's like he knows. He must have perfect pitch because he knew exactly where the notes were. Because as he's writing it out, I'm playing them on my guitar, and I'm like, he's spot on pitch-wise. That's just one of those things you notice about stuff that's either a curse or a blessing. But I was always amazed by that. Bringing God.
I'm amazed because it's not something that's used much anymore. The ability to just sing pitch and say the name of it is virtually lost, except for in choral music.
Yeah, well, a lot of musicians do it all the time, but it's rare that I find somebody who's like an engineer or that hasn't come from an instrument background where they play an instrument and they go into engineering or mixing. It's rare that I find somebody that can do that, but when you meet somebody like that, it's like you're totally blown away.
Yeah.
It's always cool. So what are you guys talking about?
Your turn, Mott.
John.
Yeah.
I've let everybody know that about the event that we have coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted you in here for is Brad and I, we constantly talk about getting the emotional performance out of singers.
Right.
And I'm wanting to discuss, since you're a session musician, when you guys are in there, what is it? What can you tell us about getting like if a singer starts singing, like you guys have these chart sheets, or whatever you have to know what you're supposed to play or whatever, however you guys do it, depending on the session. If a musician is not in the right vibe, what do you guys do to get that musician to perform with the right emotion? Or what can be done to help a musician perform with the right feel?
Well, I think for a producer, it's critical for them to be able to relay to players what they need, and it's got to be better than just saying, make it more red, although red would mean something to me, but there are producers that maybe are less communicative, and it's harder to understand what they're wanting, and I think a lot of times that's maybe the biggest struggle for a player is if there's someone that's not a good communicator. It's difficult to be able to play the track, and usually you just go at it by what you hear. You listen to the lyrics, you listen to what the lyrics are, you listen to where the holes are, where you can stay out of the way of the vocal. But I find that for musicians, and maybe songwriters too, when you say it's like Taylor Swift's tune, and you name one of her tunes. So a musical example often is a real good, assistive tool to relay the kind of feel that you're going for. Although usually, if a guy's a good player and he's a good session player, what he's playing is probably going to be the right thing for what's happening. It's rare, unless the artist or the producer is hearing something else totally different. It's rare that the player, often a producer will hire a player based on what he knows they do. So you're walking in and you're already welcome because, hey, I know this guy's going to play this funk tune like this, or this is more of a hip-hop tune, and we don't need so much guitar, but we need a little crunch in this one section. They kind of already know what you do because they've worked with you before. So it's not likely you're going to get a call working for somebody that doesn't know you. And when you do get those calls, those are the times that you really want to shine, and hopefully they're a good communicator and they can relay to you what they want, and they can pull you in to the song and really make you understand what they need. But wow, they don't do sessions like they used to do. I mean, it used to be a bunch of musicians in a room, and that's very rare now. Most of the sessions that I do are by myself. I'm overdubbing, or maybe they're sending me tracks, via the web, and I'm doing them in my own studio. I miss playing in a room with musicians. It's where you go in, you read down the tune, they say, okay, they're always rolling the first take you do, just in case you play something that's cool that they like that they want to save. But you roll down the tune, and then the second time you play it, you cut it. And sometimes it's the first time if they like it and everything was okay, the levels were okay and everything. But these days, because there's not a lot of live drums cut, a lot of times they'll go back if they need drums and overdub them to a drum machine. And in fact, I think starting in around the 70s is when they started doing a lot of that, where it was a lot of drum machine, and if there were drums, they were played after, and often drummers themselves would use drum machines as a click, to play the track. Because with pop music, it's always about being spot on time, having a specific tempo, whereas with jazz, it's a little freer with the time. You can kind of slow down and speed up a little bit without too many problems, and that's also part of the style of the music. So does that help?
Yes. Now, you said that you miss playing in a room with musicians.
Yeah.
This event that we're about to have, I say we set some of that up.
Yeah, that would be great.
I don't know how good everybody is as far as doing that or comfortable. I know Sam plays a few instruments. Devon Steelman plays at least drums, but also more. Corey Jacobs plays piano. Sam, how do you think you would want to do that or feel comfortable doing that where you guys are actually doing live takes as a group of musicians? Oh, I forget that you don't have sound. My bad.
You know what?
He left.
Sam does that all the time. Sam does that all the time. No. He does live sessions all the time, so that won't be.
He does.
Yeah.
Okay, Sam. Over into the. Do you know how to type in the text message box area? Because you can talk to us over in the text message box. If you go over to the left, there's of your screen. If you take your mouse over to the left of the screen, there should be a blue square with white lines. You click on it, and then you can a message box will appear over to the right. Yeah, there you go. You can answer over there. So Sam, he says you already do live sessions. You guys are both a part of our committee for doing this. You guys should have said that. You guys should have said, hey, let's do a live session, just flat out live session. I think that would be awesome. You know?
I think that the issue is that we really haven't had a chance for us all to get together and we all have different kind of circles that we work with. We've got, like in my case, a lot of the session work I do at this stage is jingles and industrials, and so the guys that I work with they all have home studios, and that's where they do their stuff, and they don't do rhythm sections. Now in Sam's case, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do a lot of original projects, right?
Yeah. Is my microphone working now?
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
So tell them what you do. Tell them what you do. I think we've got a bit of a delay there.
Gosh. Yeah, I don't get the greatest internet reception here, so. But you can hear me now.
It's all right. We hear you.
Sweet.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. That's it. Nothing else to say.
Do you want to talk a lot about what you do?
What I do?
Okay. Well.
A little bit of everything. Everything you guys are talking about, I get. I get bands in here. I'm working on a project right now where literally the guy came in and had his songs printed out, and he said, "Just give me a microphone and a click." And I'm like, "What are you going to sing to?" And he goes, "I'm just going to sing it, and you make the songs underneath me." And I was like, "Okay." And I'd never done that before, and somehow it's working. That weird. You guys were talking about that a little bit before. He's a great artist. His name is Hunter Scott McLeod, and yeah, he plays guitar, but for some reason his preference is to put on a pair of headphones and have his lyrics in front of him and just sing. And he's, I don't think, vocally trained, but somehow, like, I can find the key that he's singing in, and I'm building all the songs. I didn't even need to Melodyne or auto-tune or anything, and songs are coming out really good. So all ends of the spectrum. I've done some stuff for film. I did some stuff for Toyota not that long ago. Short film score, hip hop. I mix a lot of hip hop. Man, all over the board. Every day's different in here. Keeps it fresh.
It sounds like the working musician.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and do a live session with live musicians, everybody mic'd up, and we roll like old school. And I think that would be an awesome experience for everybody.
So we probably need to determine instrumentation we need to find out who the players are. And has everybody had a chance to fill out the form? Because that will give us the information of who plays what, because I still don't know some of the people, and I still don't know what some people play. I know we do have a couple of guitar players, or at least that's
our committee that we have. As we're having that conversation, our committee that we have, that's not everybody involved. The idea is we're going to walk in, you guys are going to be surprised with some of the people who are there, and we roll with it. It's like, oh, this is what we have, and we create. So we'll know about us And then there's going to be surprises like, oh, she sings, oh, this person, and it's like, okay, you're thrown under the bus. Like with Brad, like I don't even announce to Brad who I'm bringing on or what we're doing, and he just reacts to it because he's good. And so we're going to know about each other. We're going to know about each other, and then we're going to assemble. It's like whoever's there, we have those discussions and start doing songs. Just like boom, roll with it. And that it's a crash course. It's like, what do you do here? What do you do? And
well,
then,
Devin plays drum, doesn't he?
Yes.
So we probably need to figure out a bass player and a keyboard player, and then probably define maybe what style we might be playing, so that we can have some ideas before we walk in.
Yep. Corey Jacobs plays keyboards, and I'm working on one bass player, one of my favorite bass players out here. But either way, we're going to have some overlap. John, do you have a guitar that you can play real quick on you?
It's down in my studio, and I'm upstairs. So real quick would probably not happen.
And do you play acoustic guitar? What all guitars do you play?
I play acoustic, electric, gut, banjo, mandolin, oud. Yeah, there you go. What kind is that?
Whoa!
Yes.
This is Deering, or it's their lower level good time. Play something? Oh man, I'm not a.
I needed that a couple weeks ago. Sam, I needed that a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so Sam, you're on the guitar, and we need you to play angrily. What would you do? Like if I just need the see in hip hop, when I'm working on hip hop, this is what I'll do is I don't hear, like we were having a discussion yesterday about songs. Somebody was saying they hate hip hop songs, and they were saying how how you have this chord progression that's always the same, and I was saying to them, I'm not hearing that. What I'm hearing is the emotion. What I'm hearing is how it makes me feel. And that's all I was caring about. And so when I'm working with somebody, I'll say, okay, right here, I need it to be angry. When you're doing this part right here, I need anger. And I wanted to see what would happen. We do it with singers all the time. I've never done that with a musician. Right. And I was wondering. That's why, John, I was asking if you had a guitar you could grab real quick, because I wanted to see what it would be like if you played a melody sensitive, like I care, and then played the same melody like you were angry, so that we could get the feel of that.
Here's why that would be a little harder to portray for you.
Okay.
I would need my rack, and I would need my effects, because those are a part of the whole thing, coloring the sound. And that also can change and get enhanced. Like, let's say, for example, I lay down a stereo track. Some engineers don't want you to do that, because they want to have full control over your sound in the mix. So there may be some sounds where they're going to tell you, I'd rather you not play a double sound. I'd rather you just double the part, and then if I need the double, I've got it. And then if I don't want it, I can just take out the right track or the left track. So that they want full control, and I understand that now more. I probably didn't understand it like in the 70s and the 80s, because I hadn't done as much mixing, and I hadn't really been writing that much. And now that I'm doing more mixing, I'm starting to understand, this is why the guys always said, well, no, we don't want a stereo track, just give us a mono track with, and there's some considerations, like if you're doing like a mono track and you want to add chorus on your guitar, you have to lengthen the delays just a little bit, because when it goes to mono, it starts to sound boxy, and you hear a lot of phase issues with the guitar. And to avoid that, you lengthen the delay. Like, for example, a real simple example would be 17 to 35 milliseconds for like a chorus sound. If I were going to a mono track, I would either reduce the depth of the effect and lower it behind the guitar, and then I would also lengthen. I would start working from, say, about 25 out to 50 milliseconds, because once you get to around 50 milliseconds, if it's really loud, it sounds like that Elvis slapback. If you remember, a lot of Elvis songs had that reverb, that slapback reverb. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful with that, and it's a very subtle thing. But as far as adding emotion or anger or joy or whatever the emotion is that the producer wants, for example, if it was an angry song, I might use the tension of syncopation, or a syncopated part, or maybe a really busy part, because it's busy can sound angry. Or I might use, for example, distortion and just play one chord, and a really nasty distorted chord. Or I might use less distortion and a real dissonant chord. Like, for example, a good example would be like if I'm in the key of A, I might play A, E, which is a root in fifth, and then I might play A, F, so it's a raised fifth, and that creates a sense of tension, and you can play that over a normal fifth, and that's when it creates the tension, because it's actually like a flat six, which is can be a very dissonant chord, depending on what other notes are in the chord. But you get the idea.
Yes.
Trying to think of songs, a recent song that I heard that might be a good example of.
See, that's why I was thinking acoustic guitar, like when Sam popped up the what was that? What did you pull up, a banjo?
Yeah.
Like when he pulled up the banjo, that's why I was like, yeah, something like that, because to avoid all the effects and just get right back down to not just the emotion that comes out. I was hoping you had an acoustic guitar that you could demonstrate for us. Well, okay, Sam. Now, what would you, when you're working with these artists, if you need them to play with more whatever type of emotion, what type of stuff do you say to people to get the musician to actually perform with that emotion? Like if the musician is not,
for example,
at all.
Yeah, if I'm example, I was working with a younger girl singer-songwriter just a couple weeks ago, and she's singing a song that she wrote, and it's great storytelling, and it's a song that she wrote when she was maybe 13 or 14, and now she's 17 or 18, and so she's revisiting the song. So it's a song that was, produced and done somewhere else, and the tracks are back in here, and I'm just working with her as a vocalist. So I know you said musician, and now I'm jumping to a vocalist, but this could work with a musician too. A lot of times I try to get them back to revisit what it is in the storytelling of the song, what was the emotion when it was written. I think the hard thing is, the studio becomes clinical real quick, just because, again, there's different microphones to choose, and different instruments to choose, and different guitar amps, and guitar effects, and like all these different things. But you start to get into this cognitive. It's like someone said once, being an audio engineer is more decisions than once in a doctor. And you're troubleshooting, and then Pro Tools is not working, or a mic cable goes out, and so a lot of this process, and then you have to quickly flip from that into an emotion. If you're playing an instrument, so if I'm playing guitar, and I got a drummer and bass player in here, and we're playing for someone's song, I'm thinking about all these things, and all of a sudden it's got to click over into, like you said, what does this song need? What serves this song? And if it's anger, then you got to kind of find that place. And let's say your drummer's is kind of sitting there playing, and you're like, he's not feeling it. Sometimes it's just stopping the session and saying, hey, what we're looking for right now is got to have this feel to it, and let her fly. Just let it. What I found is most of the great guys I get in here that I keep using the same guys because they're just so good at what they do. They get it. They're looking to you to what do we need? What do you want us to do? That's a great the guys that you want. And sometimes those guys are just yeah, you can tell them give me anger on this song, and they'll be like, oh, you want anger right now on the drum set? Oh, play that back one more time. All right, I'm ready to. I'll lay into it. I'll let her fly.
I'll give you anger. I've got a little bit of a delay. Is everybody else having that?
What's that, Sam?
Yeah, I don't have great. You know what? I'm on a laptop, and maybe I'm in the studio, but I might move closer to the internet here. Okay. So stand by. I might move a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what were you saying, John?
I was going to say he was saying that he finds the guys that he likes, and I think that's generally the case when you end up working with the same people over and over again, and I think it's because you find good people and you tend to stick with them, and when you tell them what you want, they just know, or they're gonna be able to. Good example. This one guy that I work with, we do a lot of stuff for Europe, and like he does BMW commercials, Ford stuff, not Toyota, but what's the other one? I think Nissan. But when we get in to do sessions, he'll say, this is kind of a such and such thing. And he'll go into record, and we'll go into this period of time, like if we're doing a lot of guitar parts or a lot of doubles, where we're not even talking. He's stopping, going right back in. I hear the click. I start to play the next, like the double or another part, and there's no talking going on. It's all we already know the process. It's like we're dancing. I know where he's gonna go. He knows where I'm gonna go, and we just go there. There's a beauty in it. We did about a 2-minute spot. I played the bass parts, several doubles of crunch edge guitar, a couple clean tracks, and a couple like one solo pass, 2 solo passes, and he was ready to mix in 2 hours. So, and that's because we're in this groove, and we know what's expected, we know what we're going to do, we know how the other one's going to react. And I think it's the same with bands. I worked at Disneyland for like 5 years, and by the third or fourth year, we were so cohesive as a unit that we always knew where everyone else was going to go, what they were going to play, and we were just there with them. And that's what made the group so tight. And that's what you don't see with a lot of pickup bands or showcase bands these days. If they're not rehearsing a lot, you're not going to hear that tightness that you would have heard back when there were a lot of bands and a lot of bands playing like showcases and things like that. Sam mentioned about a cable going bad and things breaking or things happening that were unexpected, and I kind of wanted to address that because I think that's something that's real important when you're working on a session or working with other players. Things will happen, things will go wrong, and I think, Matt, you even said, things will go wrong, and we'll just deal with it, we'll fix it, and that's kind of the way that it has to be. Things, you'll find out things are missing, you forgot things. Here's an example. I was doing an audition for Cher back in probably late 70s, maybe it was early 80s, and I got to the session, to the rehearsal hall. It was down at SIR, and I walked in, got my stuff set up, and they looked at me and they said, okay, you're here? Great, you're next. Get set up. So I started to set up, and I realized in rushing out of the house, I had forgotten something that I needed. There's no time to think about that. So I walked straight into the guy at the desk, and I said, I need a such and such thing in Studio A right now. I'm ready to audition. Can you do that for me? And he said, yes, we'll get it for you. I went back in, started setting up my stuff. Didn't know if he was going to find anything. Didn't know if he was going to have what I needed. But I trusted. I just trusted. And I got in there, got set up. He walks in. I plug it in. They say, are you ready? Yes. I mean, it was that fast. And I played my audition. And my audition went really well. The thing is, that most novices or people that are not experienced with that situation, that would have thrown them. They would have said to the contractor or to the MD, oh, wow, man, I forgot my this pedal or that pedal, or I don't have a guitar cable. And what they want to see when you do an audition like that is this guy ready to be on a professional level? Is he ready to go out and play in front of large audiences and not stress out, not be a lot of problems, not create a lot of drama? And I see players do stuff where they walk into auditions and they're, oh man, my back is killing me, I don't feel good, and they've got all these problems that they bring in, and it's like a cloud. And other players look at that and they just kind of go, some sympathize, but the MD, he doesn't want to hear about that. He wants to know you've nailed the parts, you know the parts, you're ready to play, and you're going to play them well and accurately, and you're going to support the artist, and you're going to interact with the artist and make them feel comfortable on stage. Because lead singers, that's a whole different gig. They need support of the musicians behind them. And so you got to be flexible to deal with problems. And I'm not always the best at dealing with a problem that crops up, but I'm pretty good. And I think Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're probably pretty good when you have a session and something goes wrong. You just roll with it. You get what you need going. If you need to switch an amp, then you switch the amp. You just go forward and let it go. I'm addressing you because you're the only guy that I kind of know of the group, besides Matt. So if you've got any comments on that, please jump in.
How is Tim May doing these days? You know Tim?
I've never met Tim. I don't know Tim.
He was one of the #1 call.
I know who he is.
Guitar players. Oh, you know who he is. Okay, just don't know him. All right.
I'll tell you the guys that I know are Dean Parks, because I worked with him a lot in the 80s for the same producer, and the capacity in which I worked with him often was I came in as he was cutting, and I was the cleanup guy. He was the A guy, and I was the B guy. He had 3 hours, and that's all he had. So what was left, I got to do. And so I know him. I know Landau, Michael Thompson, who is the guy now. I mean, he is the guy for most of the pop stuff. Not to say that others aren't doing it, but Michael's doing almost everything. So, the problem with live session work is that there's so much less of it now that only a few guys are really consistently working all the time doing sessions. The rest of us are using home studios and trying to sell tracks or cutting tracks to people online, or we have like maybe little networks of people that we work with, and that's kind of what's keeping us going and keeping the machine running. It's kind of sad to see what's happened with orchestra sessions in Los Angeles. It's almost completely died out, and most of the orchestra work is going other places. But there are guys that are still doing orchestra dates, and it's just 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 guys that are doing most of the dates. Right now, it's kind of I don't know how to say his name, but Andrew Sinuak. He does most of the film dates these days.
Yeah, I know Andrew.
Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name, and I forgive me for that. I never have, but I probably could look it up.
You're talking about the guy who did L.A. Scoring Strings, right? That Andrew? He's the guy who came up with the VI, the virtual instruments, L.A. Scoring Strings.
I don't know. I only know him as a guitar player, but I do know that he's technical, and I do know that he solders.
Oh, you're talking about guitar player. I thought you jumped over to composers. I thought you were talking about composers.
Yeah.
Doing the live stuff for film and stuff.
Yeah. No, I was talking about in his case, I was talking about a guitar player, but he's maybe probably one of the main guys right now. He's a young guy. He's kind of like came on the scene maybe about 10 years ago, and just the first time he got hired, he did what he needed to do and did it perfectly, and that's why he is the guy he is. It's just the same with, if you called a guy like Mike Landau to come in and play guitar on something, pretty much the first take is going to be usable, And I'm sure you see that a lot with the people that you work with, Sam. You've kind of surrounded yourself with players that you know can deliver, and you know, I know you play guitar as well. And do we have any other guitar players in the group, Matt?
Yes, there's a couple of nice surprises. I'm trying not to let you guys know everything because I want you guys to flat out react, and that's part of showing, you know, what you're made of. Like you guys are going to be the core vet thing, you know, and then you guys will say, "Oh, that's what I'm dealing with," and run with it and solve problems, because solving problems is one of the biggest things.
Right.
And what you said about well, let me say this. I was talking to an elder in music, and I was asking him the question about what to do to pull the emotion out of a musician. To like if I need a musician to come up with a melody and I need it to be sad, but it's not, what they're doing is not sad. The elder got frustrated, and basically what he said was, he'll listen to the person, and if they don't get it in 1 to 2 takes, he'll thank them and say, I've got what I need, thank you. They'll leave, and he'll call somebody else in.
Yeah, in fact, he'll probably even say, "That was great. Thank you so much. We're so glad you came in." And you feel really good about it, and you'll find out later that you weren't the guy that was on the track. That's very true. That happens a lot. And sometimes it's just what I got. Sometimes it's just a style thing. It's not that the player played. In fact, most of the time, I'd have to say it's a style thing where they realize, oh, he's more this kind of player, and that's not what we wanted. And it's nothing about the player. The player is great, but there's just a style thing, or maybe that day where his head is at stylistically isn't where they need it to be. So maybe they call in another guy that's, you know, got a different bag and maybe approaches the style differently. But that you're so right about that. That happens. Has happened a lot, and they don't talk about it. They don't say anything bad or anything.
The artist I was working with last night, this Hunter guy, he was saying like, "Oh, I don't want you to get too far going on all these tracks, so that like if you play a bunch of stuff and then it's like not what I'm looking for or not right." And I said, it was almost like that, "Oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings" type thing. And I told him, "Hey, man, that happened a long time ago. I can go back 20 years where I played my favorite lick on someone's song, and I was so like, oh, this is it." And they heard the song and they said, we like everything, just take out that one guitar lick. And I'm just like, oh, you know, it just stabs you in the heart. But then you build thick skin, and you know you're gonna do a bunch of stuff, and sometimes it's it, and sometimes it's it for you and not for others. Or sometimes it's not it for you, and someone else is like, "Oh, I love that. Keep that in there. In fact, turn that louder," and you're like cringing because you're like, "Oh no, I don't want everyone to hear that." So it's you build thick skin because in fact, this is a great story.
You can't be sensitive. They've got to be able to tell you.
I was working years back with James Valentine, the Maroon 5 guitar player. And he was telling us a story about songs about Jane, and how he had laid down a whole bunch of guitar on songs about Jane, and they kind of went away from the album a little bit. And when they came back in the studio and were listening to the playbacks, he was listening and he thought, oh, there's a bunch of guitar that doesn't quite sound like I was playing. And Adam Levine, I forgot to say his last name, had gone back into the studio and re-recorded over not only guitar but drums and bass. So he, without telling any other members in his band, he had gone back in and recut a bunch of their stuff. So what you hear on the album is like probably 70% Adam and 30% the rest of the band, because he can play all the instruments and he knows what he wants, and so he went in there and recut stuff.
Right. And
James is a phenomenal guitar player. If you've ever heard James Valentine play before, that guy is he's mind blowing. He's amazing guitar player, and here they're cutting over his guitar tracks, which kind of blows me away. But
yeah, sometimes the trick is knowing how not to think. and because a lot of good players sometimes will play stuff and it's great, but it's like, well, we really want something that's a little simpler and more, you know, accessible to the average audience. And so that great part you play might get erased because they just want something simple, and so they have to hire sometimes a lesser player to get that simplicity and get that sound that they want.
That's true.
Do you? Who else do we have here, Matt? Do we want?
Well, Brad. When you were talking about composers, I'm like Sam. I thought you were going down like a whole nother path with that conversation. Because Benjamin Wright, as a composer, when you said strings, I imagine Benjamin Wright and the string work that he's doing with the whole orchestra. But Brad, what would you chime in
on the same subject?
Yes.
One thing, I don't know if all of you watched that little movie Michael Jackson did before he passed, This Is It?
Yes, I did.
And you might want to watch it again and pay very close attention to how Michael talks to the musicians. He never uses a musical term.
Yeah.
It's you know, I want pizzazz here. You know, I want a deep dark color here. I want this thing to really bounce. You know, he used all metaphorical type comments, and of course, obviously, the musicians that he had there, he knew they could do that, and they would just change the way they played it, and so. It's very similar to what you do with a vocalist, but it's not. I think it could be the same. I haven't really done it with musicians. You know Ghost Webb, right? And
yes.
he sent me something, or he was talking about.
Who's that?
He's one of the guys that's usually on our Hangouts. He's a producer. Anyway, he mentioned that on the Jamaican.
His name's Ghost Webb.
Yeah, Ghost Webb. That's his. It's actually Robert Webb, but anyway.
Okay. When he goes by Ghost.
The picture he uses is of Star Wars, the big hairy guy. Anyway, who's that? Super famous Jamaican guy that brought reggae out and then died. Now his son's moving it on.
Bob Marley.
Yeah, Bob Marley. He said that one of the musicians who works under his son and has kind of been in that line all along, came in and talked to each musician very specifically about feel. This is how I want this to feel. This is how I want this to feel. I want this, I need this. I need that. And again, it was all like John was saying. He was a very good communicator. A lot of our music today is ever since probably the 50s is by street people who don't know what a fifth is. And a lot of the musicians you guys probably have seen don't know either. But they have a certain feel, a certain color that they play, and that's why you'd have them in your band, or that's why you'd hire them. So they're used to only talking about emotion and feel. That's all they hear. So if I was working with a musician, I'd probably do it very much the way I would a singer. The only difference is that if it's a band and all the musicians already have a good idea of what they want it to sound like, and then there's a producer there to assist that, then you can talk to a musician more like an artist, because he already has a picture in his mind of how he wants to sound. The band's already worked it out. That's the interesting story about Adam Levine. And then sometimes, you guys know that band sometimes they're not very good in the studio, and they call you guys in to play their tracks, you know. So I would probably do the same. Mostly, what I do with a singer, with an artist, I'd say, well, what is it you're trying to play here? You know, what is this song about? And you need to be supporting the singer, if you know, unless it's an instrumental band, because whether you like it or not, the singer is out front. And if you don't support the singer, then you're not supporting yourself, because everybody's got their focus on the singer. And if the band, whether they're hired guns or actually a cohesive band, they've got to give as much of that same feeling, follow the same storyline, know what is going to come up next in the storyline, and what the writer and the singer, and a lot of times in bands they're both, are trying to communicate. And it all comes down to that. It's got to be communication, or it's, as somebody already said already, it's a no-go recording. You know, it's like, might as well just not even play it for anybody. Because the only thing anybody wants to hear, unless they're one of your technical friends, is that what Mott said, that emotion, that feel. He doesn't care if there's one chord or 20 chords. He only cares is, do I get chills? Do I feel like I'm going to cry? Am I getting angry? You know, in other words, is there enough emotion coming out of that whole song for me to say, wow, I just had an experience? And I'm sure these two, you know, John and Sam, are very familiar with all this. But I've learned to become a little bit more hands-on. I don't know if any of you have seen my hangouts with Mott, but I found that, you know, saying to somebody, well, you know, you need to make me feel it, doesn't work, because then their mind goes away from what they're trying to feel themselves into trying to give somebody something. And that completely blows the conscious mind away from the feel and puts it back on some kind of, okay, well, maybe I need to play this note if you're talking to musicians, you know, or maybe I need to add a seventh here or whatever. Now the musician's not feeling what he's playing. He's trying to give the producer something. And many great musicians I know, they want their instruments to be something that's in their, you know, their hands are working it, but they're not aware of that. They're just feeling what's coming out of the instrument. Just like a singer. It's a little easier for us just because we use words and because we're very attached to the instrument. And then sometimes it's harder for us because maybe we don't really want to be that open to people. Maybe we really don't want to be seen. And so then you'll get people who try to act a little bit. And I just keep coming back at that type of situation, and I just keep asking questions. And Sam, I think you said something very similar to what I do. I say, what does this phrase, you know, first of all, I'll ask them, if they sing something really dry, I'll usually listen first, see how much feel they have. And if it's really dry, then I'll start to say, well, what's the story about? And one of the things that's really interesting is they start being very animated all of a sudden. Well, you know, this happened to me, and I did this, and my friends, and, you know, it's like, okay, all right, great. Now you know what the story's about, right? You say, well, yeah, I knew what the story's about. Okay, good. Now, let's take a phrase at a time, and this is not for recording, this is for pre-production. Let's take a phrase at a time and really look at what you mean here, what the music's supposed to feel like here, if it's a musician, and what are you feeling when you're performing. Now, what I found is very concrete with singers is that if they feel it, the producer will feel it, the audience will feel it. It's just that automatic. So I don't use acting terms. I don't use, you know, Sam said, you know, like for the 13-year-old girl, well, what were you thinking about at that time? That's a great question, man. And maybe you do this, but the only thing I was thinking when you said that is what I would add to that after is, now, how do you feel now after you've, you know, while you're just before you're going to sing the phrase, and sometimes I'll even have them talk it through first. With a musician, I'm not sure how you do that. I was a guitar player for a lot of years, but I was overly technical. So I'm not going to use me as a good example, but I would think if someone was talking to me and they said, okay, I need this rhythm so that people will tap their toe, or this is what the song's about, Mr. Musician. And so when you feel this song, then I know you're playing it the way I want it done. But if you're not feeling what you're playing, then I think that's a horrible thing. You guys were talking about the producer saying, oh, that was great, yeah, and then replacing you. People, I don't know. It's like, come on. What's wrong with a little honesty, I mean, jeez. I know the world's trying to save everybody's feelings, but hell, that's what the music industry is all about. It's feelings. The recording part, anyway.
When you're paid for it, you don't exactly have the time to spend another hour.
Right. I don't know. It's different. Like I said, with the band, and they already know what they're feeling, but and of course, Michael Jackson had more money than he knew what to do with. So he could have the musicians at that rehearsal for days if he wanted. I understand all that. But I was just trying to answer the question. You make a good point. But I assume that, Sam, when you're talking to your musicians, or John, when you're talking to your musicians, you're doing something similar to that, but maybe in a more compact way.
Yeah. Again, I think it's. When you have an artist, let's say, and you're being called on to pick a drummer and a bass player and a guitar player and kind of put this whole thing together. I guess that's back to wearing more of a producer hat. A lot of times I can just hear the songs and see kind of where the artist wants to go, and I get just a gut feeling like, I know if we can get this guy and this guy and this guy, they're going to feel what you're playing because they're already great and they have a history and a background, and they have things about their character and their personality that will glue right into what you're doing. And the tough part is some of those guys are so booked up, it's hard to get them to come out in the studio. Again, money talks, like you said, the Michael Jackson thing. Money's a great factor, but I guess I've been blessed, or just been, maybe it's a little bit of luck along the way too, of just falling into some circles of guys that are just good at what they do and talented. And I feel like in the last couple of years, my theme over and over again is let the song create itself in the studio. I feel like it starts off, and sometimes if I get a songwriter that comes in and we're starting a project and they're like, okay, I've written this song and I hear this and I want that. Sometimes I kind of stop them and just say, we'll shoot for that. That's the bullseye right there. But be open too to the studio has a magical way sometimes of you get good people in and everyone's kind of got a little flavor. It's like cooking, you're throwing in a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and maybe the song ends up outside of what you thought it was, but hopefully that all equals something that's greater, and when people hear it, they'll get all those little magical things that kind of got sprinkled in there along the way.
Yeah, creativity, I think, is should always be open in the studio, but like you said, it's kind of a technical environment, especially for singers. They don't get in the studio as much. They don't know as much about what they're doing as the musicians do. The parable I use is that as a singer, I'm like a blind guitar player, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just hoping it comes out right. And that's a lot of singers. I'm sure you've noticed that. What I do in pre-production, and as I say, this is before the tracking time, for the artist and the producer, is to bring everybody together on the same page, make sure that the singer and the producer know how to communicate with each other, and that they all know exactly what's going to happen before the tracking starts. I know when you're doing on the spot stuff, which I know you guys do a lot of because people don't give you any time. You can't really do that, but that's how I get the most out of the singers, is by doing the pre-production rather than showing up in the studio. I know there's vocal producers now that show up in the studio, cold with the artist and just wing it, and I think when you get to a certain level, like you were saying, there are singers that can do that. I've made some of those singers better, but they still can do it anyway, and so there isn't the frustration. But sometimes what Mott's asking us is, well, that's great, you guys are at this level, but what about if I'm producing somebody who doesn't have the same experience and feel? John Basker won't work with, is it John? Yeah, John Basker won't work with anybody who isn't the whole package before they contact him. He won't do any A&R, he won't talk to them ahead of time, he won't do anything unless they are 100% ready before tracking time begins. And he doesn't have anything to do with it. And he's working with people at that level now. And that's why he can do that.
You're exactly right, Brad. If I have somebody who cannot bring that, it's like, then what do I do? And if they don't have the budget to go and get, say, a John Christopher, who's just phenomenal at guitar, what do we do to get that person to, what do we do to pull out that performance in that person? And what I would like to see is you working with a musician to see if the same vocal techniques, the same thing you do with the vocalist work, or if you end up having to do some adaptation. Because I don't know, musicians, singers are musicians, but the instrument players may have a different thing that you have to pull. I don't know, but I think that would be interesting to see. Like even Hallie plays a guitar. Like if we brought Hallie on and said, okay, we don't want you to sing, play me a melody. Okay, now I need to hear that melody angry, and then okay, I need you to be a little girl in the corner playing that, but things like that. And when you said Michael Jackson on This Is It, I remember him talking to I think it was a guitar player or bass player, and he said, I need more booty on it. I think that's what he said. And the guitar player, the musician, laughed, and they did this jab thing back and forth. But yeah, that's exactly what he did. Let's see, what else? Oh, what I see is whether it's somebody making a beat, or because we'll have beat makers adding stuff to vocals, or if a musician comes in, what I see happening a lot of times is, say the singer's singing something, and it has this feel to it, and then the musician comes in and they're so caught up in themselves, and it's what they're doing, and oh, this is great, and it has nothing to do with what the singer's doing. And so if the singer's about to commit suicide and jump off of a cliff, but the musician, or whatever you want to call the person adding the music to that, is concerned about how great their riff or whatever is, when you play them together, it doesn't have the right feeling, and then they're sitting there like, this is awesome, and like me, I'll mute it and say, hey, I'm going to make a beat out of that, but it's a waste as far as the song. And so how do we get that person to realize, without crushing their, without lying to them, and have them just send them off and say, hey, great job, awesome. What things would you guys do to get that person on the right track? It's like, hey, this person is about to jump off a cliff because their mother just died, and I need that type of feeling. I need you to maybe even take us there before, make the music take us there right before the person sings that note. Like, what do you guys do? And I ask the type of stuff, number one, because a lot of us don't have great musicians and don't know what to say, and the musicians aren't saving our butts. Like Sam might come in here and just save our butt, and he's like, I get what these dummies are saying, and do something, and we're just like, oh, he killed it. But when that's not the case, that's why, like, I'm imagining what Brad is talking about would work. Francisco, I'm about to throw this to you and let you talk on it, but on that using the same chords all the time stuff, I'm starting more and more to equate doing music with sentence writing, like you write a novel, and we're all using the same words. Like as we've been sitting here talking, we've all been using the same words, but we're communicating things, and that's all it is to me. Is I honestly, when people play, when you do, like there's videos out there where they'll show all these songs with the same chord progression, and it's funny, it's cool, and yet each of those songs has they communicate different stuff. There's all these nuances that are different. It's the same chords, but I bet you I could go and get books. Every book that I go out there and get that's written in English has the same words. There's all these extra words or whatever, but they're all using the same words, but they're creating a message. And then if I say, you know, Francisco, I hate your guts, and then I turn around, Francisco, I hate your guts, dog. Like I can change the way I'm saying it, or I hate your guts. You know, you know, Francisco, I hate your guts. It's all the same words, but it's communicated differently. So anyway, Francisco, would you chime in? And I would love to see you do that with a musician, Brad. I think that would be cool, like to start that thing up. Go ahead, Francisco. Oh, I don't hear you. When he was on earlier, Francisco's vocal was echoing. It's like he had a slap back and a bunch of reverb on there. So he went and got a mic. Yep, just undo the mic and let's see if we can get you without echo. I'm going to mute up and maybe we'll have you. So the mic that you just did, the mic that you just added, we don't hear you. The mic that you added, just take it out and let's see if your audio comes back. And the feedback might have been coming back from one of us not being muted. Nope, don't hear you. All right, while you're doing that, yeah, just go back. We'll hear you eventually as you work it out, but try to go back to the echo part where you were echoing, and all of us will mute up, and that might fix the problem. What else? Did anybody else have anything to add to that? I'm sitting down here going over the notes that I have. Okay, emotion. What all, either one of you guys, what are the different things that we can use to create emotion as we're doing this music? Brad or Sam, either one?
Well, I guess I pretty much explained it, but Francisco, oh, he's gone. You can see a little green line if your mic's on, moving on your little picture.
Yeah.
So he can watch for that. I've made it my life's work because I just think it's so practical to have the magic, as they say, and I know how to do it in a practical way, and I get the results, and I can always, just like any good producer, I can say, oh, I don't feel you here, or I don't feel you there. Oh, that was great, man. I felt that whole phrase. That was fantastic. And then we'll go back and maybe talk about the one line that isn't working, find out where their head went. We're human beings, and one of the greatest skills we need as artists is to be able to stop in the middle of something and go right back into the story, not let things distract you. So I have my clients constantly working on, well, like say they've got a bad vocal day. I say, okay, this is a good day for you to completely forget about your voice and just focus 100% on your emotion, because that's a distraction for a singer. It's like as a guitar player, it's like having old strings, and there's nothing you can do about it. you can't do anything. I mean, the guitars just malfunction. But if you can still play with feel, then the audience can still get what they want. And I did a blog on the last 8 years of the Grammy winners of record or album of the year, and none of them were fantastic singers, but they all just were dripping with emotion, and that's what wins Grammys, that's what sells records, that's what gets contracts, all that stuff. Okay, it looks like Francesco is. I was really delayed for some reason. You want to try it, Francesco?
Hey, how's that?
There he is.
Yeah. Okay, cool, good deal. Sorry about that, guys. So essentially, going back to the whole thing of taking the extra, as a producer, as an engineer, taking the extra cash to pay for those guys that are amazing is well worth it, because you do lose a lot of time and effort and energy when it comes to the whole project. When musician to a point where they're not really there. So that's the first and foremost when it comes to all of this. But when I do have to do it, and it does happen, it just that I work with a lot of indie bands and to kind of make do with what you have. So a lot of the times, and I know Brad doesn't like speaking in actors' terms, but when it comes to like my producing, and I speak in actor with my singers, my musicians, it all has to do with how you feel at the moment and what your body does. So when I have like a guitarist, I know that a couple months ago, sitting in a session for this artist for Universal, we had one of the most amazing acoustic guitar players. And it was crazy because we were talking to him, we were working with him, and it was just not working. And it was just a matter of saying, well, this is a special. We turned to him, it's like, well, let's do this as if you had broken your hand. And what would happen if something like that would happen? And it was like, kind of made him cringe, but at the same time, really like brought that kind of like weakness in his hand. You could see it, like you could like physically see it in his hand, where it all of a sudden became kind of softer, and he like. So it's sometimes you have to turn to a musician and really give graphic or sometimes thoughts of what you're going for, and not really emotionally, because emotions for a musician, for me, is physical. That's why you see guitarists when you see a while ago, like not this morning, and they have pictures of guitarists doing solo faces with a slug, and so it's that kind of, it's a physical. Think about, they're releasing their emotions physically through the solo, through their faces, and so you have to kind of pinpoint, at least in my case, I pinpoint kind of the way a musician carries himself, and I lean towards that. Oh, am I glitching? Uh-oh.
Oh no, go ahead. I'm asking them if you're glitching for them, or is it just on my end? Go ahead.
Okay, got it. Oh no, I guess I am glitching. Great.
It's all right. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Are you hooked up with an Ethernet cable, Francesco?
Actually, let me give me two seconds, and I'll come back, and I'll talk to you.
Okay.
I'll get a
wireless is too slow.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay, I wrote down for the things that we can use for emotion is volume, pitch, rhythm, speed, and the character that you do it with. And so, like as I'm writing songs and working with singers, I'll actually, as we're writing, like a lot of singers will sing the same melody and starting point every time, and so I have them vary one of these. Like I had this one where I had a singer sing the same words for the whole four. This beat was playing for 4 minutes, and I had this. The only thing that was changing was a singer, and I might hold up a card and that says volume, and as they're doing it, sing the same sentence, change the volume so that they could, as we listen back, everything we had them change, they would listen to the feel change created by this stuff. So I would hold up a sign that says volume, hold up a sign that says pitch, and that meant change the pitch. Like if you change the starting pitch, then you and then see where you end up. Each time you change the starting pitch, let's see where you end up and see what the feel is. Or like I had a discussion with one of the singers. The song started at a lower pitch, and then when you get excited, I was like that volume and pitch goes up, and I said, okay, so when we go to the chorus, that's an exciting part. That's why it's to be exciting, and that's why it's higher pitch instead of we're just every chorus is going to be pitch. I'm glitching a little bit too. Ooh, okay. Let me take my bandwidth down a little. My picture might change, but hopefully my bandwidth will be better to where I don't glitch. And you hold up a sign that says speed, and then they go back and forth, and you can actually feel the different emotions when they look back. And I would say, listen to yourself, feel what happens when you change the speed. And there's this kinetic thing. They would be seeing it, or they hear it when we play it back. Like I'd hop in a vehicle and say, let's ride and listen to these changes that you're doing, and then let's discuss, like, pay attention to how it makes you feel when you make these different changes. And then as they do it, it's like, what are you feeling as you do the speed change emotionally? And after a while, they start connecting the dots, because I'll say, as a listener, I'm feeling this, but as they do it, they'll be feeling something else. And so, okay, maybe Mod's a weirdo. So then we ask another person, we say, hey, Sam, what are you feeling right here when this person does that? And Sam will respond. And after so much feedback from different audience members, per se, you have what you're thinking what you're feeling, and what you're thinking you're conveying, and what the audience is conveying. And anyway, that's a thing that has been working for me. Francisco, you back?
I'm back. How's that?
Yep. Wow, we hear you much better.
Yeah. It's good old Wi-Fi was going out on me, so yeah.
Okay. You were saying musicians, they feel it. It's a body.
Yeah, it's definitely a body thing. I mean, when it comes to what they do, it's very physical and at the same time technical, because but there's only a finite amount of essentially musical words that they can use. And the better the musician is, the easier it is for them to recall it. Kind of going back to the idea of Brian Wilson being able to sing and write it down. Once you've gotten to a point of mastery in your instrument, it becomes second nature to be able to play these kind of notes and play this music. So it then becomes a point of getting people to actually respond to the stimulus that is the music, and you get the emotional effect from listening to music. You can listen to a classical piece and be very moved by it, but at the same time, if you're trying to go for something else within that piece, you bring in stuff like dissonance and stuff like that, and dissonance is the whole point of, like I said, in that case, a dissonant is to create another layer of emotion, and so that, if you can't get it out of the person by writing it in, like in the case of a dissonant, you actually then have to find another way to actually pull that out of them, and some people react very well to taking muscle memory, and muscle memory being a very important thing for a lot of people. You can then kind of exploit that. I hate saying that, because that's pretty much what it is. You're playing a psychological game with the musicians, and because you really are pushing for that other level of playing that you're not getting from them. So, like I said, in the case where I was talking. Oh, I think someone left their mic on. Like I said, in the case when a musician is not getting the emotion that you're looking for when it comes to your piece, you then start trying to find a way to have them relate to the emotion that you're trying to get them to actually get them to actually do. So I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to getting a session like that is really connecting to them at another level in order to push them. Like in the case that I was talking about, where we told the guitar player that his hand was broken and how he would react to that, and then it became a whole ginger we told him essentially his left hand was broken, and it like you could see the pain on his hand. He's like that's because that's a guitarist's worst fear is to have something like that happen, and then to have to kind of go to that point in their minds. They're like, some musicians won't actually get it, but some people will, because it's such a drastic image. And I know for me, I know for me the biggest one is I worry about my ears, and so I'll know I've had people say, oh yeah, there's a really loud noise, and I heard like a high pitched sound right after it. That's like my worst fear, and I know how I react to that. I know physically how I react to that, because it's such a big fear. It's such a big fear for me. But that's also something that you use with musicians if they don't if musically you can't write that, because emotion in music is written. I've seen a lot of people kind of read what it is, and they play it, and they're so technical about it that they don't really think about it. They're like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be like this, but then that doesn't exactly convey what you're looking for when it comes to your piece. So I think the biggest thing is trying to connect to them that way. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it when it comes to trying to
Francisco,
push yeah.
Those were not acting terms that you were using, in my mind.
Oh, okay.
No, you're acting is when you ask them to be somebody else.
Gotcha. Oh, well, I was just talking about
somebody else.
Well, it's physical memory and sense memory. That those two for me are very much acting, because I actually came from that world when I was a kid. I did that a lot, and so when I started thinking about muscle memory, sense memory, those are all very much acting phrases that are thrown around a lot and so super cheesy. But yeah, it definitely is something where people have different ways of.
Okay, did he glitch or is it me?
He glitched.
Okay, he's out. Welcome back, John.
For a couple minutes, I might have two crazy females here in a second.
Okay, Francesco, you blanked out for a sec. Go ahead.
Gotta go.
Am I good?
Yeah. See you later, John.
But like I was saying, it definitely is about connecting to a physical point for a musician, because the emotional point is written for them, and it should be kind of, if your song isn't capturing that emotion that you're isn't capturing the emotion for the musician, you then have to start thinking about what's going on in your composition too, whether or not it's conveying it. So, but if you really want to connect that way, it definitely is about really pushing that. And I know another example that I have is in a session where it was really weird. Like it was a conga player, and he was a percussionist, and he had all these bells and whistles, and as they do, but he was playing this song that was very kind of like laid back and relaxed to very like upbeat. He was like dun 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 dun, and it wasn't kind of filling with the actual song. So I I remember I turned to him and was like, all right, I need you to slow down. I need you to kind of chill, take it a little bit further down. And you say those, like, the things that you usually go like, okay, let's slow it down. Let's need a little bit less, you know. And then I remember I turned around to him and was like, I need you to play this as if like you're holding in a fart. That's just what it is. It's like, it's painful. It's, you know. And so he kind of laughed at me at first. It's the only way I could think of it. Like I was like, that is like, you know, you're with the girl that you really like, and you don't want to let it go. And so you have this kind of sense of urgency, but you're trying to keep your cool, you know. And that's kind of what I was trying to convey. It was like you want, like, I want that dun 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 dun, but I want it more like dun 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 dun, you know. And he got it. He's like, okay, I get, like, after we all kind of laughed and told our war stories from dating. He kind of got it. He kind of got the fact that it had to have that urgency, but at the same time, it kind of had to have some finesse to it. And so I'm a huge fan of using physical thoughts. And another thing is you know, another easier way to kind of do that is referencing. I'm a big, when it comes to mixing and when it comes to tracking, I love having reference material available all the time. That's definitely the easiest way to kind of do it. To be like, look, this is, you know, this song is this way. I want it to sound like, you know, like when we're going back to the whole Maroon 5, it's like I like that whole Maroon 5 album. Like, I kind of want the guitars from there and kind of the feel from there. And then if there's something specific that I was looking for, I'd go that way. But that only gets you so far, and then you really have to connect to the musician on a more personal level, and really kind of find out what makes them tick. But once again, going back to the original idea, like, if you have the money to get those guys that you know, that charge, you know, a good amount, that's the best way to do it. I mean, it just really, because kind of going through this whole charade of like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, is great, and it can be done, but definitely the session musicians that know what they're doing, that really have been doing every day in, day out, like, you know, like Sam and those guys that are on the actual board today. It's really important to kind of push those guys, because it does make a difference. But when needed, I definitely kind of go for the gut and really push what happens in the studio by essentially playing a psychological game with them. So, but that's part of being a producer, is you have to push everyone around you that way.
Just springboard off of that, it just made me think of an awesome story my friend told about a really big session, high-dollar session, all the big studio cats, and they had mic'd up this drum set, and they had flown in a drummer, and they're just waiting for him to show up, and he comes, and, you know, the producer's telling everyone else, wait till you hear this is going to be amazing, and the guy gets in there and gets behind the kit, and you know, they're all in the control room, just like anticipation, and they give him the track, and it's just like bad, it's just crap, and everyone's kind of looking at each other like, whoa, what is going on here? This is the, you know, famous, you know, name session guy that's played on this, that, and the other thing, and they're telling him everything. They're trying to work with him and give him, you know, feedback, and, well, could you do this? Could you do that? He's playing. And at some point he just stops and he kind of looks over the producer and says, you know, I just got off the airplane. I haven't slept in like 14, 16 hours. I didn't get anything to eat. They didn't feed us on the airplane. And the producer was like, what? Wait a minute. Hold on. And he said, yeah. He said, get back from the drum set. He said, there's a couch in the next room. Go lay down for a bit. What do you want to eat? And someone went and ordered him food, and the guy went and took a 20-minute cat nap, and then they brought him some food, and he ate. And then, of course, you know how the story ends. He gets behind the kit, and he just, like, then all of a sudden it's like one take, and it's like everyone was just, wow, you know. So you gotta, and that's a physicality thing too. If you're, it's a mind, it's a body. It's like there's so many factors that are involved, and it's imperfect too. And sometimes you embrace the imperfect. You know, that's a big part of it. Is, you know, I have my strengths and weaknesses. I'm feel like very confident in my guitar playing, let's say, to play on stuff, but I know I am not a shredder. I can't play fast. My brother can. My brother and I are the polar opposite guitar players. He got a guitar and learned Satriani and all those type of real quick stuff. And I grew up kind of being the jamming guy. I'd hear guys playing, and I'd grab a guitar and feel my way through it. I mean, I know music, and I can read some and stuff like that, but I'm not like, I don't fall into the virtuoso. I never locked myself in a room and did scales up and down the neck a million times till I could to play that fast. But so I know what I have to give, or strengths a lot of times in hearing a song, is again back to that feel and that vibe, and knowing sometimes that I'm fortunate in that I got a studio as a back house. It's like I'm in the living room. Earlier I was in the studio, it's like 30, 40 feet away. It's separate building, all designed and built to be a studio, but there's times that I'll walk out there and grab a guitar to go lay something down, and I'm playing and my mind's on something else, or I'm a little bit stressed from the day, and I realize this ain't working, and you stop and again go walk around the block, or I love the reference music thing. I think reference music for me is huge too. Sometimes it's stop, listen to a couple of tracks, one of your favorite songs, and get refreshed and again, the going away and coming back to things, I think is invaluable too. But yeah, what everyone said so far, ditto, agree.
Yeah, definitely. It's a physical game. I mean, I know we get musicians get made fun of for not having real jobs because they don't do real work, but it's a total physical game. It's a mental game, and it's definitely I mean, obviously we see what's going on with drug abuse amongst some of our idols, and kind of dealing with that, and it does take such a physically taxing toll. That people don't really understand, but on that same note, we all take emotions from that. Michael Jackson is one of the most tortured souls, and he made some amazing music by channeling a lot of that, and on top of that, trying to change the world, through his music. He used a lot of his appeal was through his emotional connection to his music, and using that. We look at Janis Joplin and how her singing was just, it was guttural because of all the stuff that she was going through. And like I said, and on the musician side, you see physically, like, not only like you hear these amazing musicians do their thing, but when you see them live, and that's why people, always say that seeing your favorite band or seeing your favorite act live is a whole different experience than when you see them, when you listen to them on a CD. It is, because there is this tangible side to it. This tangible feel that every musician can connect to, and that, like I said, in the studio, you can use that. You can really push that, and really push a musician by connecting to the physical side of what they do. And just like that exact example, like, a musician can just not be on because he's not feeling it, had a rough day, and you can also take that same memory, like, and be like, look, remember when you were playing like that? Like, remember what's going on? Like, if you want to, if something about that part of the situation worked, like, you can use that same memory, or even the memory of like, hey, remember how shitty you were playing earlier? Like, don't play that. And we say that a lot in studios. Like, you hear engineers kind of egg on, because it is kind of like this frat boy mentality when it comes to the studios. You get to a closeness where you can say those kind of things to each other, and it will bring out something in the musician, even if it's as kind of lighthearted as a joke, is like, oh, you suck today. like, oh man, you suck today, and even though you're not really saying it to hurt them, you're saying it to kind of push them, egg them on, and so it is. It's very psychological when it comes to and I know Brad is I've seen a lot of Brad's stuff, and I'm a big fan of his work, and it's the same kind of thing. It is a psychological thing that we have to play, as producers, because I'm a producer on my side. Like I'm in the studio working with musicians, every day, a lot, and so we kind of do have to get past the niceties of kind of every day and really get down to the core of it, because when it comes to these kind of, when we're expressing themselves, when artists are expressing themselves, it is an emotional journey. Like, it's not just music, it's their life, it's their story, and it's super important. So when you're dealing with that kind of emotion, you have to pull that emotion out of everyone else, and out of everyone else in the project, because no one can connect to the subject as well as the artist. And so as a producer, you have to find ways to do it. And like I said, there's several different ways, and like I said, physical, emotional. I sound like I'm running this Nazi death camp with these guys, but it is something where I push people. I really push people to kind of get. I remember one time there was a singer where that wasn't working for me, and it was her. Like, she was part of a band, so I couldn't just say, hey, I don't like you, like, get out of my studio. Like, I had to make it work, and I know that that's the case, and I physically, like, I physically had to, like, come at me. I was like, come here, and she walked right up to me, and I grabbed her arms, and I said, okay, now get away. And that tenseness kind of was what I needed in the actual song. And that kind of, and I also kind of changed the people, or the musicians around us, because they were all like, we were all in the studio, we're having a fun time, but this song was very tense, and they were taking that idea, that same idea, the whole like lightheartedness in the studio, and kind of, it was kind of seeping into the music, and so, like, that was kind of my way to kind of take back the seriousness of it. And they were all kind of thrown off, and like, oh my God, what's going on? But it really changed the mood of the song from that point to what we needed it to be. And then afterwards, we all had a beer and we were fine. But that's kind of it. Definitely is a mind game that you have to play with musicians and singers. I mean, and it's definitely a case. So that's my 2 cents on it.
I'll tell you guys a funny story. You were talking about being graphic. When I was working on the project with Quincy Jones, he sent Tom Baylor, right-hand man at the time, over to my studio, and I was working with Rebecca De Mornay, who's an actress. And basically her role was a top 40 singer. She was in a top 40 band doing bars and stuff like that, while her husband was a baseball player traveling around. Anyway, so Tom says to Rebecca, he says, what I really want from you is, you have this kind of innocent come fuck me thing about you. That's what I want to see here. So, there's no holds barred.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It just, and it's funny because, like, not a lot of people are very, like, not a lot of people talk, and I'm actually really glad that we're kind of talking this way, because not a lot of people talk this way about kind of what's going on in the studio. Like, we talk about, oh, it was such a great time in the studio, we had such fun. It's like, but there's a lot of these weird kind of stories that you hear, because you do have to push it. You do have to push that. Sometimes you can't be nice. Sometimes you can't be, you have to be blue. You have to kind of do those kind of things in order to get that emotion out of it. And it's not, being in the studio is not a PC thing. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on that needs to happen in order to make, and especially as a producer, you have to be willing and able to kind of push it that way. And some producers, some engineers, do it by, you hear horror stories of producers and engineers. Phil Spector would carry around a gun a loaded 45 and a bottle of I can't remember what it was. I can't remember what he drank, but he always had that on him, and he had a physical presence to him that people were afraid of, and that kind of set the tone for the studio that day. And so there was that respect, and so you would try to work as hard to make sure that he wouldn't shoot you. He literally chased the Ramones around when he worked with them with that 45 around the studio because they weren't doing what he wanted. There's also stories of like Brian Wilson, how he was in the studio and how technical he was, and so he pushed his musicians to try to be as good as him because he is amazing at what he does, and so it really is this weird kind of like, you're right, no holds barred like situation, like where it just you get it done, and I'm sure if if the music industry was run by people that had HR firms all the time, we would all be in trouble. So we'd all be sued for sexual harassment or discrimination, or it just because it's extremes, and it's not always. It's not, sometimes you have just amazing musicians and amazing everything, and everything just goes right. But then those extremes where you just are not getting it, sometimes you have to push the envelope and say things that in order to incite your musicians. So, yeah. All right, Ma. I think I've spoken enough and got in enough trouble.
Now, see, like, you just don't get honest talk a lot of times, and that was a bit of honesty about some of the things that happen in the studio. There's always this fluffy story about what happens, and like, I'll be on here sounding crazy, like way out of bounds when I'll say, look, if I need to choke a person, I'll choke a person in the studio, to set that mood. And like Brad saw on one of the hangouts, I put a knife up to one of our guys' neck. And Brad said, you must really know him well, which I did. But you get real personal. It can be offensive, all kinds of stuff, depending on in the studio. And then all of that's it's like Vegas, supposed to stay in the studio, But yeah, if we had, yeah, you can get in trouble with some of the stuff that happens in the studio. But what I know is, if, like with me, if I didn't do some of the stuff that I did, a person would stay in their little box. They wouldn't come out and do what they need to do. And somebody might look at me like, "Ma, why are you pushing that issue? Like, bag up, bro. You've had your chance. Bag up. Watch the results." And like with me, sometimes a person would end up mad at the end of the session. He had me doing this, and I blah blah blah. And then, as time goes on, that song, since it would have the emotional content, people would gravitate to that song. And it's like, everybody likes this song the most, but I don't want to go through that again, type of thing. And so, like, that, for me, that's where, like, I would, like, my whole thing with Chapman, I'm used to just saying Brad Chapman. My whole thing with Brad is like, okay, let's try to get these people to where I don't have to do this stuff so much. If I need you to be, Brad doesn't like the acting stuff, but like, if I need you to be the dragon on Lord of the Rings or something, and you're just not in that headspace, I've got to come up with some stuff that works. And if some of this stuff, some of this stuff has to be G-rated, which Brad is great for G-rated stuff.
Hey, man, that's not necessarily true.
Well, you've got a lot of good G-rated stuff.
Well, I know, but it's the people you've been putting on. But sometimes I get a girl who's got to be horny as hell when she's singing. All right, it's just a great example is the metamorphosis of Selena Gomez. I can just imagine what's been going on her sessions on this new record. It's so sexy.
I haven't heard the whole new record, but that Can't Keep Your Hands to Myself. I don't know if that's new or not, but that is my jam right now. I was in the hood last night yesterday with a whole bunch of there was a funeral with a whole bunch of my fam, like street cats, and I'm jamming I'm jamming Selena Gomez, can't keep my hands to myself, and just looking at them like, yeah, this is it, y'all.
Yeah, I mean, whatever the feeling is, whether it's like the blues, they should be on the edge of crying. If it's anger, then they should be mad as hell about whatever was going on, or whatever they believe is going on in that lyric, in that part of the song. I mean, you can imagine punk rockers, at least the older ones, they just have to yell. I mean, you can't give them good vocal technique; it won't work. They have to yell in order to express the anger and the in-the-face experience that they're having. They want to be in your face, telling you to fuck the hell off. And if they're not, if I was to say, okay, let's get some technique in here, let's change this valve, no. I could warm them up and maybe warm them down, but they have to yell. And so sometimes I know, and I just heard this producer for Rihanna, vocal producer for Rihanna, they pay $15,000 a song for. Telling her, you gotta scream. You absolutely have to scream. Don't give me that singing shit. You gotta scream. So I think everybody's on the same page here. And it will be very eye-opening to the people that show up at this thing, because you just don't get this information anywhere else but from people who have a lot of experience in the industry. Just like people who are trying to get into the industry or brand new at the industry, they don't understand it at all. They just like, what, you want me to feel what? It's like, why should I feel anything? I mean, I want to sound good. I want my voice to sing, and I want, and they get really confused. But it's part of their process. They're either going to make it or not on that one particular situation. If they can't adjust to that, that's okay. They can go sing in the bathroom. Nobody cares. But if they really intend to connect with their audience, they've got to connect with the lyric, no matter what it is. And they're the ones who decide. And that's kind of why I it's not that I don't like acting stuff. I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. My main reason for not doing it is because the recording industry is all about being organic and real, and I've heard many people in the upper industry say, the audience can smell a phony in 5 seconds. So if the person is truly a character, playing a character, it's going to be one, maybe 2 or 3 degrees separation from the actual real lyric. And I've worked with actors and actresses that were very famous, had lots of money, like you were talking, it was great, they had lots of money, so they book me every day and come in, and they think that they can just make a record in the record industry because they have all the connections, they have all the money. But the thing that is the hardest for them to do, because they live their whole life this way, is to be real. To actually sing something they mean, rather than a character singing something that means. And so that's the only reason I kind of shy away from that. Maybe I should explain myself more when I say that. But
I think kind of the classic example is like Amy Winehouse. There's no one that can do Amy Winehouse but Amy Winehouse.
Right.
Like the Rehab, when you hear that, like I remember when I first heard that Rehab, I wasn't I loved her voice, but I was like I couldn't connect to it. But then I started kind of like listening to the rest of the album, and I start hearing this pain, like, because you hear people's like, oh, I'm gonna go rehab, like it's a serious thing, like it's a super serious thing. And when I hear, and talking about a fake being a fake, like people catch on to that. It's like, what do you know about rehab? What have you gone through that makes you think that like they're trying to get me to go to rehab, but I'm not gonna go. No. You're almost making fun of it. And so like it's like if someone is trying to sell that, because that's what the industry does. They try to sell stuff. But when someone tries to sell something like that, you're like, okay, that's a good song. But the reason why it resonated so much is because you start you start really looking into, you know, who that artist is and what they're doing and what they're going through, and you hear the pain, like kind of like in that kind of like funny little jab at herself, but then you start really delving into the whole, and that's why for me albums are so important, is like because it, and the whole single culture is hard, but yeah, definitely if the person is real, it's gonna connect. And like I said, and just to kind of explain what Brad was saying, yeah, no one can do Amy Winehouse, because Amy Winehouse is Amy Winehouse. I'm sure that maybe I'm wrong, Brad. Is that what you're kind of going for?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be you, and whatever suggestions that you guys come up with that helps them be them. I'm certainly not going to say, well, I don't agree with that. If it works, it works. I want to ask everybody, how much do you guys know about this Jay-Z Pop Factory back in New York? And you know, they're turning out all these hits, but I don't get much of a feel from a lot of them. And the vocal producer Cook, who they use a lot, is he has a jingle background. So you know, when I heard him talk, you know, he'll go in and cold with the artist and basically, you know, kind of just do whatever it takes to just get something to happen. And he never really talks about the art of it. He just talks about, you know, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, and we got to do it quickly, you know, because they're paying me so much money or whatever. What do you guys know about any of that?
Well, I'm not sure about that specific situation, but I know, I mean, see, when I come from I work a lot in Latin pop, and there is a form. That's what it is. There's a lot of artistry that comes out of it because of the people that work in it, but there is definitely a form to it, and to hear that whole like, oh, you know, it doesn't really matter what it sounds, you know, what it feels like. It's like it's got to be this. It's because it does sell. I mean, stuff like that sells, and there is a formula to what they're doing, and Jay-Z isn't. I mean, like I said, once again, I don't know particularly about his whole thing, but Jay-Z is a businessman, and to hear, I'm not surprised to hear something like that coming out of a vocal producer out of his camp, especially if they had to have a proven track record of selling stuff. There is definitely a space and a need. It's like, well, the whole supply and demand is big in the music industry, you know, and so if Meghan Trainor sells, then Meghan Trainor sells, and she's going to do her thing, you know, and if Selena Gomez sells, Selena Gomez sells, and they're going to do their thing, and you'll hear, and you especially as a songwriter, like you look at tip sheets, and tip sheets are riddled with, you know, Justin Bieber-ish esque or you know, Rihanna-esque, you know, it's because there is I don't want to, I mean, I don't want to call it a formula, but because people will always say there's a formula to it, but there is the general public has been attuned, their ears have been attuned to a certain thing, and that's why, you know, and it goes to the whole radio thing, and you know why they play certain songs so much, and but there is something to that. Not saying that it's not artistry, and that when people start saying, "Oh, it's not really artistic," I'm like, there is, and it's just like Andy Warhol and his art, where he was taking commercialism and shining a light to it. This is kind of like the reverse of that, you know. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, but that it definitely it's definitely something that I hear a lot, and I get why they do it. You know, because we are in the music industry, we are in the music business, and so if we're not making money, we're not a business, you know. So yeah, that's that. I definitely know, but yeah, and I hear, and it's not just Jay-Z. I mean, it's just that everywhere in the actual industry, this is happening, and because you know the mic that you have in front of you costs money, and you know, and we all gotta you know, make sure that we're paying the bills, and but at the same time being able to nurture what originally brought us into the industry is the passion to make music and to connect with people, and even if there is a formula to it, people connect to those songs, people connect to that music, and there's not. It's very easy for people to kind of dismiss it, but there is something to it to be able to write something and connect to that many people, and it means something to to every person that it reaches. So yeah.
Cook, Kukharrell, Cook Harrell. He was part of the team with Tricky Stewart and The Dream. Very successful. You spoke about the formula. When we are not good at using the formulas, it sucks. There's a lot of formulaic stuff out there that is just awesome because the formula was created because it worked. Cook has talked about he would sit there and have the artist run down the song line by line or whatever he's doing, and he's listening for the emotional cues that he needs to hear. Once he hears it, he's got it, he moves on, and he's got a fast system, and he's real in tune with it to where it's just boom, 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 go. It's like, nope, I got it, I already know. He's good at it. Like this, I'm thinking he would have done the new Justin Bieber song that's out because he was working with Justin Bieber. And like that song, no drums, My Mother Likes You or Doesn't Like You, whatever. That song, I'm listening to the vocal on there, and he delivered. Justin delivered. And if Cook did that, but a lot of this stuff, like I was going through a bunch of songs that Cook and him, Cook worked on, and a lot of the stuff is like Single Ladies, Only Girl, Umbrella, Growing. Let's see. There's a fine Just Fine on Growing Pains. Some of the songs that when guys are doing them, it's like you have one emotion. Say there's a song, I Hate You So Much Right Now, and you just dig in and go, 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 and that emotion is what that song is for. It delivers and you move on. Now, will that be the same as something from back in the day like Teddy Pendergrass? No. That's not. Like Single Ladies and Teddy Pendergrass Turn Off the Lights are two total different things, two total different functions, like olive oil, and then you've got water, and then you got Crisco. They're different things, but it's like, make no mistake, Cook Harrell is good at what he does, and with his background was he did jingles, but his background is way more than that as a musician songwriter, and if he had to sit down and take the time and work with a Teddy Pendergrass type artist, and where they didn't have to do this fast-paced thing and dive in like what's his name? One of my favorite producer-songwriters, and I'm drawing a blank right now. But anyway, Cook could do it. He could do it. But his job right now is, if I have 30 minutes, say I got 3 hours to work with you, and we got to knock it out, you can call on Cook, and you're going to get that pop product, and it's going to be some good pop, But that's all I can say about Cook. Like he's very good at what he does.
Yeah, he obviously is. I certainly hope I didn't.
Oh no! You didn't.
I didn't know that about him. That's good to know.
But now, and he, because like he made me think of you when he was talking about, he would sit there and listen to the emotion, and he's if I hear it, that's it. I know it because I'm so tuned in, and boom, move on. And he trusts, and even if the artist doesn't know, when the artist comes back, they hear the comp and everything that's going on, and like, oh, okay, and they get it, and then they start trusting him. Now, the thing about what I'm seeing with all the writers and stuff is people like with Marvin Gaye, when there was a time when Marvin Gaye was doing, I don't know, like he was trying to be Frank Sinatra, and I don't like that. I listen to it and it's crap to me. and that's Marvin Gaye. And then there's when he came out as himself and did, you know, some Marvin Gaye stuff. Same with and Teddy Pendergrass, some of the stuff he was doing. I actually got into that person. The stuff I'm listening to from singers, it sounds like people with multiple personalities. Like, I don't know who Rihanna is. I can't get into Rihanna as a person, and I was just defending her yesterday because I like a bunch of her songs. There's a bunch of songs of hers that I like, but her as a person, I have no idea what I'm getting. It's like it's 50 different people, and part of that is because there's however many writers, and so you've got all this. Instead of, like with you, Brad, I know what I'm getting. With Rihanna, I have no idea what I'm getting. And the next album, she might be a giraffe, a tarantula, and a snail, you know. And then the next album, she's something else, and was never, as if she's never been a giraffe, tarantula, and snail. Depending on the writers. Like even with Beyonce's stuff right now, let's say Beyonce's stuff right now is her. Okay, all that great writing and stuff that was done back in the day, then I, as a listener, that's not her. It's a total different person, or she's grown as a person. Like when I was 8 years old, I'm no longer that person. And yet, my auntie knows from when she saw me at 8 years old, she saw the characteristics that are still in me to this day, but you know, are changed into whatever. It's still there. But like with all of these writers, it's like those characteristics are no longer there. I'm a total different person. Tomorrow I'm going to be something else. That's what is, you know, the negative side for me, which for somebody else might be a positive side that I see from all this fast-paced throwing stuff out just to make hits for these artists. Makes a lot of money, though.
Well, yeah, and Katy Perry is like that, too.
But now you said Selena Gomez's whole album is the sexual whatever. Yeah, I'm going to get it because I really like that song, you know.
Yeah, it's like she's a whole different person now. It's you know, she doesn't sing through her nose like she did. She doesn't sound like a 12-year-old like she did, and she isn't all, you know, right on the beat and right on the syncopation like she was. I mean, she plays with the feel of the lyric and the mood and plays with the notes. It's like shocked the hell out of me.
The old school nuances that we talk about, that stuff's coming back. There's no ifs or buts. That stuff is being put into pop music. It's going to be put into hip hop big time. It's coming back. Like Hobson made a song mocking a lot of the stuff with hip hop where you can't understand what they're saying is just total garbage. And people think that that's all that there is in hip hop when there's actually some hip hop out there that's very intelligent, that's jamming, that people love. There's crowds for it. It's just not on the mainstream. But all this stuff that you're talking, Brad, it has a place present day. The stuff is coming back, and like that's like I said, that Selena Gomez song. And there's others. I have a whole list. I have a phone full of stuff now. Reference material. We were talking about reference material. I got a folder called Hit Songs, and I chose a bunch of pop hit songs, and then I have a whole bunch of tutorials that I've bought, and they're all put on this phone to where if we're somewhere, when you talk about references, when we're somewhere and I need something explained, I can go here and part of the CD's on there. If there's something where Michael Jackson, like on Michael Jackson's, you want to be starting something, he changes rhythms, his vocal rhythms, the patterns. He might have 5 vocal patterns. They keep repeating, but he'll go one vocal pattern, another vocal pattern, another vocal pattern, go back to the one, do it again, then introduce another vocal pattern, and next thing you know, he's saying "Mama say, Mama sa, Mama pusa," right, which is a total different thing. And then they go off into something else. And what I learned from that is he was to where you could give him, say, one beat, and he'd come up with 50 different melodies, 50 different rhythms, where we'd be, oh, I got me one rhythm, one melody, and that's it, and then I use it forever. This dude would be like, we lost the hard drive? Okay, give me that basic beat again, and I'm going to give you 50 more melodies, 50 more rhythms. And so that's, like, I started doing that with people where you constantly coming up with various rhythms. Are you about to say something, Francisco? Or were you, oh, okay.
Just scratching my head. Sorry.
But like I say, like right now I'm looking at, I have a playlist of hit songs, and I have CDs that are like, there's CDs that'll take hit song where guys will take hit songs and explain the stuff that's going on, and I mean this thing is just full. I can just scroll. Ellie Goulding, Selena Gomez, Taylor Swift, Meghan Trainor, Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, Leona Lewis, Kelly Clarkson, Rihanna, Carly Rae. I mean, this thing is pink. It's filled with stuff. Justin Bieber, that Love You Whatever song, I play that a lot. There's a guy, Lucas Graham, that 7 Years. That is an awesome song. Like, do you know what I'm talking about, Brad?
Yeah, I've heard it. Yeah.
So one of you guys was talking about am I messing it up? Pedagogy? Is that the word, or am I messing it up? Where everything in the song fits. Am I using the right word? Pedagogy?
Oh, pedagogue. Yeah, I think they do pronounce it that way. Pedagogy. Yeah.
Okay. At the beginning of the song, he's talking about this 7 years like it's a movie, like his life as like it's a movie. And at the beginning, if you go back and listen, there's a projector sound that starts up, as if the movie's starting up, and then he starts singing. And at the end, when it goes out, the last thing you hear is a projector slowing down and stopping. It's cool. Like there's all that, like, and that feeds into the feeling, the perception that you get of the song. And there's a lot of people who are out there now who are actually getting into more and more performances that really make you feel something, and then everything else coming together with that instead of just quick, whatever. But some people are good at putting this together quick, but when you look at the stuff that people take the time to really put in stuff, there's a different level of just, it's like mwah, that comes out of it. And but I'm looking for that stuff in these songs, all the little things that they're doing with their vocals and whatever, the little nuances. They're putting them in a lot of these pop songs.
Well, one of them is really famous that they're doing it. It's because you can use a microphone. You couldn't do this without a microphone, and they, in the vocal world, they call it the vocal fry, and it sounds very emotional because it's, hey, I'm down the road. And it's very effective. It's being used a lot. Singing softer is being used more now because they have more control of the audio. I mean, speaking of Selena Gomez again, she's like, can't keep my hands to myself. You probably could barely hear her if you were in the room with her.
Yeah, you could hear
that. Is so sexy.
I know.
You can hear that breath and you're going like crazy. It's like you can hear it because she's so down. She's so like she's whispering. It's a whisper.
And so you feel intimate with her because you feel like she's right there in bed with you, telling you that in your ear. But Adele is the ultimate on the other side. But also I heard that I haven't gotten into it, but I heard that Selena Gomez changed everybody in her life, her manager, her producer, all the musicians, everything. She went a whole different road. And so whoever those people are, they're doing a hell of a job with her. But yeah, I'm an old 60s guy. I guess maybe that's why I tend to, I didn't like pop music when I was a teenager. we used to call it bubblegum music. And then basically what it meant was for the bubblegum girls with their bubblegum. the young kids. And we were way too opinionated about it at the time, but I guess that's one of the reasons that I particularly get a little bit turned off. But you were talking about the writing a song as a movie, and Adele says she writes her songs from beginning to end. She never takes parts of other songs and puts them together. It's always one storyline, and it's all about whatever she's feeling at the time. In other words, it's absolutely real from the beginning to the end. And then when she sings, it's the same thing. You never feel like she's lost the lyric or the story for any moment of time at all. And I haven't really heard this last one that she did. Somebody said there was some collaboration on that, on the writing, but you know, there's a lot of people in the background that don't get credit for a lot of things. It's the team.
Yes. Actually, that's part of why we do the hangouts. Why I invite all the different guests is there's a lot of people that are doing great work that you would never even know about. Or even Francisco, there's great stuff out there that he's done that his name may not even be on. That's the reality of how things are. And so he'll walk in, and a guy named Joe Vassetti, I like this dude. Like, he'll come in, and you have no idea that this guy was with Jimmy Douglas and Missy Elliott and them and all the stuff that he's done. And there's just a lot of maybe tons of stuff that do not have his name on it. Matter of fact, could you speak on that, Francisco, or if you would?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, it's definitely I've been lucky that my boss has been super good about getting my names on credits and stuff like that. But it's not always the case because it's not always up to you. It's not always up to the engineer. It's up to sometimes I get subcontracted, and so the producer never even knows I worked on it, kind of deal. So that's kind of what happens, and I usually am pretty good about trying to get to up the ladder to make sure I get the credit, but it doesn't always happen. But I definitely I know one of the ones that I almost didn't get any credit on was the D'Angelo album, and it was just like I had to essentially talk to the engineer. Like, I went to New York and was like, hey, help, but I talked to them, and they gave me an assistant credit and a production credit on that. But that was one of those things where it was like an afterthought, because they're not really thinking about what the assistant's doing and stuff like that. So there's stuff like that happens, and like I said, I've been lucky that I've been kind of fortunate to have someone as an advocate for me and my work, but a lot of people don't, and it happens a lot, and especially because there's no system of really tracking that. Like even guys that are at the big studios, that happens a lot to them too. Like where they work on these amazing albums, but they were part of the studio, so they're furniture. And they don't get the credit that they should get for stuff like that. So, and actually that became kind of apparent as I was just telling you, I submitted a bunch of stuff for the Latin Grammys for the stuff that we did last year. And that's coming out, actually, that just started coming out. And there's a couple albums that I did that my name didn't get put on, that I did a bunch of work on, that I did a bunch of editing, bunch of engineering, didn't get put on there. And it's not something that you can go back and do, but that definitely happens, and you just have to be on top of as much as possible, and especially when it comes to bigger albums. But I've been lucky that I've had. I've been the behind the scenes guys for my boss for a long time, and I essentially am work with a lot of the engineers and producers and songwriters out of the Woodland Hills area, a lot of the Latin pop people that do, and I've been lucky to work on some amazing stuff. I know, and it's funny, and sometimes I get overcredited. Actually, there's one album where I got credited as a mixer. I never touched the the console on it, but I'll take it. It's one of those things where it's just like sometimes it works out for you. But yeah,
if something like that wins a Grammy, then you're kind of screwed,
Yeah, exactly. So screwed. Getting a nice little statuette.
Yeah.
Could you imagine walking up? You're not. Wow. You're not even the person that did it.
Yeah, I'm sure it was like some kind of clerical error. Like it was just like I was probably like in as an assistant. It was very early in my career too. It's like I think I should have gotten like a mix assistant, and I think they just put mix, and so I got a credit as a mixer for like my first project ever. So, but yeah, it's definitely something that I mean, I've been lucky. A lot of the stuff that I do is, like I said, is in the Latin pop world, and so um, I've worked with actually the first album that I did was my mom's like idol, and her name was Thalia, and then I did Placido Domingo's crossover, the last crossover album that he did. Worked with Elvis Costello on the Roots. We did some work on the D'Angelo album that actually won a couple of Grammys this year, this past year. But like I said, it's just one of those things where not my name doesn't get on everything, and you know, it's.
What studio are you at?
Actually, I work for a mixer by the name of Rafa Sardina. His assistant. I've been his assistant for going on 5 years at this point. So a lot of the stuff that he does, all the stuff that he does, I do. I work for essentially do all of his session cleanup and setup breakdowns. A lot of his editing when it comes to drums and programming and producing. Actually, this year I started actually producing stuff for him, writing songs and producing stuff for acts that he's been kind of picking up and working with, and I do a lot of his essentially tuning and on the more indie stuff I do a lot of the editing. So that's kind of, and like I said, those are stuff that there's not really a category on, it's like either you're an engineer or you're not, and so usually I'll get additional engineering or sometimes I'll get vocal engineering, so that's stuff that doesn't always get put on the liner notes because it's not the exciting stuff. So but there's definitely.
Where are you guys even seeing liner notes anymore? I have a hard time finding them.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm also kind of working with him. We work with the big guys, so Sony, Universal. So they're still turning out physical CDs now.
Oh, okay.
And so we still. I mean, that's why for me it's really it's really important to get those credits because they do get actually put up. But I know a lot of the indie people, they're so worried about getting all their thank yous out that they forget to kind of credit the people that actually did the work, and so that does I can definitely see where it becomes an issue. But there's actually I know Matt, you had a guy a couple weeks ago that he's got a company that specializes in that, which I think is amazing, and everyone should be hooking up with that guy because it just Tune Registry, there you go. That's actually a great thing to have because it's definitely you can definitely take care of that yourself, but there's so many kind of aspects that you have to reach out to in order to make sure that it gets done. And even then, even with having that information and having proof, it's up to the artist and the label sometimes to whether or not you do get credit on that because they have to kind of verify it too. And I know that's been the case when it comes to I see Brad and his plaques in the background. Those have to be okayed. Yeah. You can't just buy those and
Not
so
with the RIAA on them. Yeah. That's the key thing, because you can buy gold platinum records for scenery.
Yeah.
It won't have the RIAA stamp on them.
Exactly.
I've actually got 40 platinum records instead of 22, but they're outside the country, so there's no RIAA sticker, so I didn't bother with them.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that that the proof that's kind of sometimes a little more elusive than people are willing to talk about because it is definitely something where you have to. You not only have to have proof that you worked on it, and that's even hard sometimes too because it's it's the industry and no one's writing down who's exactly doing what, and you hear different. Oh, actually, I gotta go. That's the little one, but yeah, it's definitely important to make sure that okay, just to round it up, you gotta play a physical physical and emotional game with your musicians, going back to what we were talking about, and make sure that you have them connect in the way that you want them, and then on top of that, make sure you get your credits. Hey, that's it for me, guys. I gotta go.
Take care, bro.
Have a great one.
Man,
Time to go be a father. I know. I got you.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye.
All right, bro. Peace out.
so, can you go off live for now?
Yes.
I still like to talk to you, though.
Okay. The Tune Registry is a site where they document, where the documentation is there, and that there's sites like that that are being, people are addressing this issue. And then file format like MP3 work, there's, as time goes on, the idea is to have a file system, a file format where all the metadata is there that's needed. Some type of meta file, like if it's going to be MP3, whatever it's going to be, have it to where all that stuff will be there. But then getting somebody to actually input it and gather that data, that's where Tune Registry and sites like that are going to come into play. All right, so that's it for today. Is there anything you'd like to add before we go offline, Brad?
No, man, you always bring great talent on here, and I love learning from these guys because it just makes me better at helping them. I'm not a writer. I can't just sit here by myself and do something. I've got to be working with people in order to actually be enjoying my profession. And so I don't know how you do it, frankly. I don't know how you get these guys on here, but it's a great skill, and I appreciate it a lot.
Glad to help, bro. Okay, so we'll go offline. Everybody, see you later.